The following DVD is a presentation by the Agricultural Societies Council of New South Wales for the grain judging competition. In this competition, 3 classes of grain, 4 exhibits to each class are judged by competitors. Prior to judging, each competitor nominates his or her choice for oral judging. Visual or non-oral judging of the 3 classes takes place first. Competitors are allowed 8 minutes for each class to judge the 4 exhibits and complete the judging card. At the completion of the visual judging, all competitors or the top competitors judged by their aggregate marks are selected to compete in the oral class. Each competitor in the oral class is allowed 2 minutes to explain the reasons for his or her placing. Competitors in the oral class are scored on their accuracy of observation, their comparative statement, speaking ability and general presentation and dress. The winner of the competition is arrived at on points scored from a maximum of 200 points, 50 for the correct placement of exhibits in each of the 3 classes and 50 for the oral class.
This is the first time which I've won the competition, and I cannot explain how I feel. It's just overjoyed the fact that 5 years worth of work has all come in to be able to win today.
When comparing the grains, I usually like to go with my first instinct because it's usually always right. Like when you second guess yourself, that's when you always end up in troubles. But as I walk out and look at the grains, I go for the one that has like the brightest colour, stands out to me, is very uniform and very true to what it's supposed to be. I like to go for high test weights and the predicted yield kind of side of things because they give you like a good background and it makes it kind of easy to judge, and because the more like the higher it is in like the test weight and the predicted say oil percentage and stuff is going to relate back to the more production, the more money, and yeah, that side of things.
Judging grain, I guess you need to classify, if you have samples of grain, you need to look at them and examine each individual part of a grain sample and compare them. You'll have 4 samples in the competition basically, and you need to compare each of the samples and place one over another. Characteristics of each different grain sample that are important, the cleanliness basically and freedom from pests of other parts of the growing condition when it grows, so when it's harvested. So you want a clean grain sample that is free from those other pests. Disease is another part of a grain sample that you want it clean and free from disease, because this all affects the end use, I guess, of grain production, whether it be for milling or for flour production or even for stock feed. When looking at a sample of grain, once you've had a close overview of the grain and you can see it, you might search through the sample from top to bottom, having a close look. So you're not going to miss any part of the sample. You want to look right through it, have a close look at the grain up close so you can see all sizes of the grain. You want to look in the sides and right to the bottom to make sure there's nothing hidden down the bottom that might change your view of that sample. And that way when you're digging it up, you might find a particular seed, such as that one, that's got damage there from an insect. So by going right through it, you're able to see that that grain's damaged and will affect that sample. When looking through this sample again, we look right through it on all the sides to find what foreign material may be in here. As we can see, there's a number of weed seeds in here, being black oats. Right through the sample, there's a number of these which we do not want in the sample. There's a number of these black oats, as we can see, stands out quite a bit in that sample there. Plenty of those in this sample. As we search further through, there's more more grain husk here from the harvest process, straw that's making this sample a dirtier sample, which is an impurity within this sample here. We can see this straw in this. Searching through the sample here, we keep searching through, looking right to the bottom, and as we dig right through the sample we can see again more of this husk and parts of the grain head from the harvesting process that's been left in the sample and hasn't been cleaned. In this sample of canola here, we're also given the information of the variety and also the test weight of this sample and also the oil percentage. These are two very important characteristics when assessing a sample of grain, because this is very important to the end use. We have a minimum of 62 for a test weight in canola, and 42% in the oil is a standard that we want to be above. The oil percentage is important for the end processing, for the amount of oil that you're going to get out of the grain. As we can see with this grain, you have nice, large, plump, good, even colour grain, which is very evident that it has such a high oil percentage. As we can see, this is the most consistent sample here that we have. Good, large, plump, black seeds, no damaged seeds within this sample, and you can see this is a very good sample of canola. When handling this sample, we also want to make sure that we're not spilling this sample. You need to look right through and get a good look at seeds right from the bottom to the top, and make sure you keep the grain within the container. With this particular sample here, we are given again the variety of this sample we have in front of us. We also have the test weight and the oil percentage. These are two characteristics which are assessed on this particular sample to help us gain an idea of the quality of the sample. As we move to the sample here, we can see straight away the large range of different coloured seeds within this sample, and also the trash that can be pointed out in here before we even start digging through the sample. It's still important that we dig right through the sample and have a look to see what we might find in here. Foreign objects, such as a paperclip, very strange to see in this sample, but that's what you need to do. You need to look right through the sample to see what may be in here, and this obviously is something that we do not want to see in here. As we keep looking through, we find a wheat seed. This is another type of grain within this canola sample, and we do not want to see any other types of grains within this particular sample, as this affects the processing for the end use. The smaller red seeds, as we can see in here, will affect the oil content of this sample. As we can see, it's only just on the minimum standard of the oil, and these smaller seeds which have been maybe cut too early in the windrowing process has affected this sample. A good way of telling the different size or feeling what this sample is or the size of the grain would be to grab it in your hand and feel the difference in that size. You can feel the size of those grains within your hand. As we move to a better sample, we can do this again with this particular sample here without even looking at it. If you do grab that in your hand and pick it up like that, you can tell that there is much larger seeds in that, as we know this is a much greater sample here. Very consistent, large, plump, even seeds. I am heavily involved in the grains industry, working as a commercial agronomist for a number of years, and now working at home on a family farm. You can use the techniques you gain from doing such judging competitions, seeing other people compare samples, and then from day to day when we're producing grain as producers for an end market, we assess our grain on a daily basis for use on our property, and now it's helping us in our own business.